Shaxo here with an ASMR video because it's super early in the morning. Technically it's very late because I still haven't slept and I still haven't made this video and I have to make this video. Okay, so my top 2 league starters for 3.20 for Pin Sanctum would be my tried and tested Armageddon Brand Inquisitor and a new build that I cooked up on stream, which would be Ice Spear Deadeye. And let's start with the Armageddon Brand. It did get a slight nerf on the Ascendancy, a slight damage nerf, a slight region nerf, but nothing that the build cannot handle. And it's just a very nice, well-rounded build. It's really not expensive to get to like 10 million damage, right? You just need to get some focus mods, and then you're like recalling your brands every 1.5 seconds. And they are doing a lot of damage. We could quickly look at 1, 2, 7, 0, 43. Oops. Times 7 brands, because you can have 7, right? Every time you cast brand recall, you're dealing 8.8 million damage on top of 4.3 million damage passive damage, right? So it's pretty nice damage numbers for the amount of gear, like for the investment. The items are really not crazy, and no cracked gear, right? Just the focus mods are very strong and they are definitely reliable. I played it, it's nice. Once you click the mods, you get used to clicking the focus button, so it's totally not a problem. But yeah, it has very good sustain, thousands upon thousands of sustain, very nice defensive layers. It has almost capped both attack and spell block, no spell suppression, a bit of max res, and well, it's not very fast, but it can use haste, and I was using haste for clearing as my blessing aura, and that's very nice because, you know, it's smoother and whatnot. So definitely a nice build, definitely a well-rounded beast, but I didn't scale it all the way to the end game, right? I have like a decent end game setup, but it's not really cracked, right? The cracked thing is the gems. I guess that's a bit more cracked, and the passive tree, right? So you can push the damage even further than this, because this is not min-maxed. Like these items are okay, but they're not crazy. And then one thing that you can add to this build is the Oriath's End, right? So this is something that's gonna be pretty expensive, but the only thing that I couldn't justify adding into the build was Explodey, because I didn't have enough scaling for physical Explodey, right? I would have to get conversion and stuff like that, but for Oriath's End, I think it would actually be pretty nice for the build. We don't have amazing scaling for it, but it's a flask slot, so flask slot versus a body armor slot, it's a lot more flexible, and I could definitely recommend that, if anything, just to try it out, because then the build would probably be amazing if you could add actual decent explosions. Oh my god. Yeah, so anyway, pretty nice, pretty cool. It's pretty fast, it feels very smooth because of the cast time of your Armageddon Brand from the very beginning, from the get-go. It feels good and nice and fast and deals pretty nice damage. Okay, so there's that, and then let's move on to the new build. By the way, if you want more information about the Armageddon Brand starter, you can watch my previous videos because they are completely relevant, except one part, Swift Brand support. I talked about Swift Brand support as something being very nice for the build. However, it is not true. Swift Brand is a complete scam. Anyway, let's move on to the Ice Spear starter. So this build as well has very nice damage. This is my mid selection, right? It's not the early stages of the build, which I also have, but let's right. So the previous build had a little bit less damage, and it's getting a little bit of a nerf. However, this build is not getting a nerf. If anything, it's well, it's not getting a nerf, but it's not getting a buff either. It's just gonna be good the way that it is here. Okay, so again, defense pretty decent, damage really nice. Okay, so sustain on this build, right? So if you compare that to my Inquisitor had multiple thousands of recovery per second, whereas here we don't really have that. And it's not gonna be really a problem because we have freeze. So freeze is a huge defensive mechanic, and we're probably going to be freezing bosses because we're dishing out a lot of damage and very quickly, and we are decently tanky. We have suppression capped. We have a lot of movement speed, which is this, like, what's the philosophy of this build? It's basically a boss rushing build for Sanctum, right? So the Sanctum, how you want to do it is you want to blast through map as quick as possible, generate your Sanctums, and then blast through Sanctums, killing a bunch of bosses most of the time, right? It's gonna be bosses in the Sanctum. So having good single target build, and that's going very fast, I think that's gonna be a very, very nice combination. And well, it's not tested, right? I mean, there are videos of people playing this kind of build, not this build. This build is faster. This build is good. Okay, this is Shaxu's build. I take a build, I make it better. Alright, that's just what I do. So that's what I did. Thank you Beyond the Daily for the suggestion of the outdated old POB that I got sent. But it inspired me to make it better, and boy oh boy did we make it better. And this is gonna be amazing. Hopefully, right? Hopefully. I mean, I tried the early leveling, and I can tell you, do not level with Ice Spear. I mean, I did it from level 12, but it's just not good, right? Once you get your ascendancy point, the first one, Ricochet, then you can start playing with Ice Spear, and it feels pretty nice actually. So yeah, but until then, I have some leveling stuff here if you want to check it out, if you want to play this build, because I am playing this build for sure, 100%. So I had to look into this a little bit. I didn't have enough time to properly set up like min-max and practice and whatnot, but like, it's fine. So one thing that I want to show you, okay, tree, this one I want to show you. So I have a leveling tree, right, planned out, what's going after what, and this part I did test. Basically, you want to rush until Eldritch Battery. This is very important because this is gonna give you access to a lot of mana sustain. That's a problem with this build. Okay, so this is okay. So let's talk about some things that you need to get a little warning about. And while we do that, let's put on the early gear, early setup. Everything's early, right? So in the early setup, we have 7.3 million focused and then 4.9 million non-focused DPS. It's pretty fast, pretty good defense. I think this is actually gonna be pretty damn nice, right? This is literally starting stuff. Like, this is nothing, right? So this is gonna be great. Okay, so being great out of the way, let's talk about some of the hiccups of the build. Well, let's just call it the hiccups, sure. So one thing is the mana cost, and even with Eldritch Battery, even with some energy shield gear, it's still gonna be bad because Ice Spear has an insanely high mana cost. So one thing that we can do is get a regenerate 150 energy shield per second while there's a rare or unique enemy nearby, right? This is important when you're doing your single target, because that's when you have to stand still and keep shooting your Ice Spears. For clear, you shoot and move, shoot and move, shoot and move, right? So you have some downtime between casting, and that's when you recover your energy shield, both from leech, from recharge, which you can see right here, right? So the more energy shield you have, the more recharge you get for free, and the more energy shield leech per second you get as well. So just pumping your energy shield up is one way of getting rid of this problem. The other way of getting rid of this, or well, making it easier on you, is to get, I don't have it on the early, but get these non-channeling scales have -7 to total mana cost. If you really wanted to, you could push this with Fertile Catalyst to 8, but I wouldn't recommend it because it's not going to be impactful. So I don't know why I even mentioned this, because you shouldn't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. You want Attribute Catalyst more than Fertile Catalyst. Okay, so on the ring and on the amulet, you can craft those. The next thing that we want to use for that is the reduced mana cost of skills during Flask effect. So this is something that is not going to be 100% up. It's not going to be, especially on bosses when you really need to stand still and keep doing your DPS. However, even without this, like, you're losing mana, but you have maybe, well, it depends on how much energy shield you have, but you know, you have some time that you can keep casting and you won't run out of mana, right? Like, you'll be losing it, but you won't run out until you're casting like 10 seconds standing still with no downtime to casting whatsoever, right? Which is rarely the case. So I think it should be fine, even in the early stages. But one other thing that I thought about that should make it easier. So, okay, so let's talk about the blessing. There's haste and hatred, right? These are two options in the early game. You have to choose only one. And haste is adding a full 1 cast per second, which is really good, right? It's also adding a lot of movement speed. So this is a very, very, very high value aura. However, hatred just gives more damage, right? It's just straight up more damage by almost 500,000. Actually, this is something a bit different. Right, it gives more than 1 million. There we go. So basically, right, both are good. I will go with haste because haste is a lot nicer. It makes you level faster and it makes you cast faster, which makes you feel better about playing the build, right? Speed is fun. This is a fact. So I'm going for this. Later on, there are ways of adding hatred, and I will be doing that. But early on, haste, right? So one thing, okay, divine blessing. If you don't have enough energy shield, right? If you're low on energy shield, you can run with the level 1 divine blessing. It will give a little bit less effect. However, it goes from 379 all the way to 458, right? So you can cut almost 100 mana cost just by doing this, and you're not losing that much. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing that you can go for is this reservation mastery. So non-curse aura skills have 50% increased duration, right? Blessing is a skill, and it's a non-curse aura skill. So if we could go to calculations real quick, blessing, right? Duration is 23 seconds, right? 23 seconds. If we take this off, this is 17. It's still really good, and it's actually really good. It's actually very good. I'm not entirely sure why it's this good, because I was under the impression that it's like 18ish seconds with the mastery. Well, I mean, this is even better. It's okay, sure. 23 seconds, that's great. So 23 seconds, right? So you don't have to cast it very often. You cast it once, you let your energy shield recover. It's not recovering very quickly, but after a few seconds, you'll have your full energy shield back, and then, you know, you have like 20 seconds of, you can do damage, and you can be fast and stuff, right? So this is pretty important. However, if you really want to get more character power, you could just go for aura effect, which would give you more defense, more damage, more speed even, right? So there's that. Another thing to mention is attributes, right? So we have two things. We have strength and we have intelligence that we have to juggle around to actually have enough. So strength is the biggest problem, because intelligence, we can, early on we're traveling here, so we get some intelligence there. Strength, we have to grab a point here, right? And later on, if we go to the endgame cranked setup here as well, we have a lethal pride right here in this socket. Right in this socket, lethal pride gives a lot of strength. Actually, how much? 52 strength. Yeah, a lot, right? So this helps a lot, and this can also roll stuff like chance to deal double damage on notables. So this is good damage. This is good, you know. Well, strength gives you life as well. So it's a very nice spot. We are taking a lot of notables and small nodes. This is a good spot. Okay, so this gives you strength solutions, and then the other thing is the devouring titan, right? So you want to get an unveiled strength and intelligence mod, not resistances, not anything else, right? It has to be strength and intelligence. Early on, sure, like you can use anything. If you self-farm it, you can use anything, but this is the ideal solution. This is what you want. The build is pretty nice. On paper, it's looking pretty good. In practice, we'll see. I will do some intense testing in the upcoming week, but just, you know, just a little teaser. If we go on the cracked gear, the cracked setup, we're looking at 100 million blood weight. Then you focus 145 mil. That's a lot of damage, right? That's a lot of damage, and I'm pretty sure it could be even better. A little bit, maybe. Well, it depends. Anyway, right? Anyway, it's enough. It's enough. This is gonna be great. And look at the gas. Look at the gas. Oh, 11 gas per second. Okay. Anyway, checks out. Have a good league start. Hopefully, maybe if you didn't have a build yet, these are some interesting options. And I think this is gonna be a good league farmer, right? The new league specific farmer. That's my idea, that's my goal, and hopefully the build will deliver. On paper, it looks very good. So, anyway, stay awesome.